Take a trip with us at Tony's Joint. They provide top shelf cannabis, concentrates, edibles, and accessories in 3 convenient locations in Essex, Leamington, and Kingsville. Did you know that Tony's Joint price matches also? Get the best deal today. Go see your local bud tender at Tony's Joint or visit them online at tonysjoint.com. Also, Dank to Your Door delivery is now available for a $6.99 flat fee. What a deal! Tony's Joint, a proud sponsor of Hat Trick Hockey. What's going on, all you beauts and beauties? Welcome to the Hat Trick Hockey Podcast, brought to you by GL Heritage, the official beer of HTH. I am your host, Brett Hedges, along the ride with the creator of the show, Ant Gaudette, and a special guest today, a legendary goaltender, played in the 80s and the 90s for some of our favorite teams. His name is on the Stanley Cup, and he is the owner of 31 Bar and Grill in Collier Township in Pennsylvania. We are joined by Ken Wregget today. Ken!
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Man. I'll say a little bit of how all this kind of worked out. So here I am online. I'm sitting at home because I'm hurt right now, and I'm scrolling through TikTok. And then all of a sudden I see this beauty right here with his old glove on his hand, right? He's got his glove on his hand. He's squeezing. He says, "Hey, Flurry, you need a backup?" And I'm like, I would love to see that. But then, so I'm like, I just happened to just write on it. I said, "Hey, we'd love an interview." I mean, within minutes. That's why I said to him, whoever does your socials is incredible. So within minutes, they're like, send us a message. So I sent him a message. Next thing you know, I was literally on the phone with you about 15 minutes later.
Yeah.
And then that's how all this worked out. I was like, whoa.
No,
so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having us. And that's the point of us doing the socials in the first place, was to grab attraction and gain volume for a restaurant here is what we're doing. And it's quite fun along the way. Who got back to you was Nicole. She likes to be in the silent one in the background. She's my fiance. She's been here about 5 years now, working with the bar. And we, like I mentioned earlier, we went from from smoking to non-smoking. We did a food change up, and we made our food really well. And she goes at lightning speed. Like what I would do one time, she would do 5 times. Like, so she's been, seriously. So she got back to you right away, which is nice. And her daughter Kate is in a lot of the videos too. You'll see her standing on the bar or doing some of the acting, rolling out with me. And it's her idea. She's been doing it. She's young. She's 26. She's a trainer at Custom Elite Training up in Swickley, and she's used to be a level 10 gymnast. And this younger generation just have the touch of the pulse, or they're on the pulse of what's going on, and it's kind of fun to do it and connect with everybody and get to meet super people like you, and it's all a good time. That's what it's all about.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's way different than back in the day when you were playing in the 80s and 90s, right? You hear everything in newspapers, and now everything is on your phone. Before we do a deep dive on your career, Ken, just tell us a little bit about 31 Bar and Grill and how long you've been there.
Yeah, I've been here, be going on 13 years coming up. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work. We have great food. We have live entertainment on the weekends. We focus on our burgers. We're famous for wings. We have good poutine, salads as well. We cater to we want everybody to come in and be able to find something to eat that's good and great music to enjoy themselves, and just a warm, welcoming atmosphere. And again, that's what Nicole put together for everybody that comes in, and just wanting to feel warm and comfortable. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work too, but it's great being out and meeting the public, people that have supported myself and the team, Penguins, and your local team as well through the years. It's great to go out and touch base with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, so that's in Collier Township, Pennsylvania, where you spent a bulk of your career with Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. But you are actually born in Brandon, Manitoba. You're a prairie boy. You spent a lot of time in Alberta as well. Talk to us a little bit about growing up in Brandon and Alberta, and how you first got involved in hockey.
Yeah, typical Canadian story. I'll have that except for this part. My father was in the Air Force, and he was getting transferred from France back into Canada because he wanted to raise his family in Canada, not on the road somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a veteran?
No, he's passed along now.
Yeah.
But at that point he was he worked on the aircrafts, mechanic and he was an instructor. And it was up in Cold Lake, Alberta. So he was getting transferred from France up to Cold Lake, Alberta. And along the way, where our Wregget family's from is Brandon. We stopped in there, and I popped out a little bit early, I guess. And we joke I was there long enough to do everything there is in Brandon. But I've been back many times since. It's a beautiful place, and I've worked in Oak Lake. I have cousins there, which is the farming community just outside of Brandon, between Winnipeg, and just gorgeous in the prairies. Anyways, off to Cold Lake, Alberta, where I was basically just not even a year old at that point. My dad was in the Air Force. My brother was a year and a half. He's a year and a half. He was a year and a half older than me. And so Dad, one day he was, we got a few years older. Dad was showing my brother how to, shoot and stuff in the basement. And in the basement, he had a workbench with a door on it and 2x4 frame and made a perfect net, right? And he was the manager of the hockey rink. So he'd bring home some goalie equipment and he'd strap them on me. And I was probably about 5 or 6 at that point. And rubber pucks were not non-existent. Anything rubber was Indian rubber, and that wasn't flying up in Canada. Well, it was flying, and that hurt worse than a puck. But I learned from the School of Hard Knocks in the basement, workbench, net, and my brother shooting on me, and that's how I started. Man. But then when I was old enough to skate, I started playing forward, like any other kids skating. They start off, and around that point, my dad got transferred to Greenwood, Nova Scotia. So off I go to Greenwood, Nova Scotia, and then I do my squirt as a defenseman first year. Then I went winger. Then the following year, I think it was first year Pee Wee. I was 9 years old. I went back to defense. And the fall after that year, that summer, I came across at a swap meet on base, for equipment. I found an old pair of size 6 leather CCM skates. And here was the guy that walked into his dad in the afternoon after that matinee movie, Bruce Lee, all that. And I said, Dad, I want to be a goalie. And top scorer. I was pretty good. I was pretty good as a forward, but I wanted to play goalie. So Dad, he had 2 boys now. One boy, we're 2 years apart. So every other year that was one level apart. So that was twice to the rink. And the rink wasn't that far away, unfortunately, because we're on base. Mm-hmm. But so I started as a goalie on the house league team, and Dad took a coach as a house league team. On the house league team, Dad's name was Gordon, by the way. So, anyways, I ended up being pretty good goalie, and I got pulled up into the top level team. Did all the travel team for Pee Wee. So my dad had this other team by himself. My brother and I played on this top team. So from there, I started going, and that's how I started as a kid in Canada, and moved on up to Nova Scotia, back to Cold Lake again, up until midget, and then got on the list for Lethbridge Broncos, and rest is in the books.
That's what I was just gonna say. You might be one of the few Western leaguers that we've had on the show too. Like we've had a lot of OHLers, and stuff like that, but a lot of the Western leagues. And I was wondering too, but you actually answered it for me. It was I always ask guys why do you want to be the goalie, man? People shoot the puck at you. You guys didn't know that, but it was just. But then I said, and your stats were pretty good. You played a lot of games too over a season, 48 games the one year there, 53 games the one year there. How do you maintain being able to play that many games in a season?
Well, I don't consider that as that many games. That if you look at my career, that I sure had every opportunity in the book to become a starter and really grab that and take off, but it just never really seemed to come to fruition. There was a year in Philly and in Pittsburgh where Tommy Brasso was injured or Ronnie Hextall was injured, and I played the majority of the games. And those years were great. And I tried it. I really learned that to be good on a team and as the goalie, I'm sorry I got that in my hand there. I didn't realize. To be good as a team, as on a team as a goalie, and being one of two, and there's always a number one there, and you're both bucking for it, and there's competition that's fierce underlying everything all the time, and then and then that competition is good. It can be. It is good. It's good for a team. It's good for the goalie. So I was able to maybe push some guys. I was able to learn what it's like to support the team. Like when we made the cup run, and I first got to Pittsburgh here. Tommy was playing the games. I played I think 40 minutes against the Capitals in relief at some point. I believe that was the first round. But I learned quickly along the way that if you're not prepared, so although you're not getting on the ice preparing, that you better utilize your practices and your off time and just have a vision of where you're going and playing. Because if you ever got in that net, I know speaking as a backup goalie or a second goalie, if you ever got in that net and you're not prepared, you embarrass the whole city, yourself, the team, everything. And that's one of the worst things you can do in your life is embarrass yourself. So you really learn to become a teammate and work hard and pull together for the common good. And because at the end, you really do share in it because it's a team sport. Team sport. And as far as goaltending, yeah, the stories are true. The smallest kid in the block goes in the net.
I mean, I always try and think like when try to like compare people like being a goalie is like being a quarterback of a football team. Like you got to be ready no matter whenever your number is called, and to be a backup goalie, I think that's got to be super hard in no matter what level you're at because hey, if things don't go right, you got to go in there and you got to make sure that they go right.
Yeah.
So is that something that you took pride in? Like, hey, like I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna be able to give us a shot to win every single game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you had to because even as that goalie, and I was a little bit on the, I wouldn't say older side, but well, nowadays, probably mid-career, but there were younger guys. So I was able to work with the coaches, the assistant coaches, because the head coach is doing his thing. The assistant coaches, if you think about it, they're in the same boat as you, as the third line, as the fourth line, as the sixth, seventh defenseman. So there's your little clique, your unit. So you need a leader amongst them that are really going to drive and force those guys up. And that's how, and I'll use a Pittsburgh analogy here, back in '92 when you got that one fourth line through the '92 playoffs where you had Jock Gallagher, Mike Needham, and they're on the ice to get people a break. But if they got a goal or something great happen along the way, well, it has to because that's one less, and that really brings the team and the top guys. It's when you get that far, and we did that in Philadelphia as well. And I still hear being here in Pittsburgh about that game 7 when Tommy went down and we ended up winning and off to Montreal for the conference finals. They don't like hearing about that one too much. It's kind of a laugh, but I mean, there's some great times I've had. And I never understood the rivalry fully between Philly and Pittsburgh till I was able to actually live in both cities and experience it here from the people.
So you have a lot of success in Lethbridge, and then you get picked 45th overall in the '82 draft. What was that like getting your number called? With I'm sure a Canadian boy getting picked by the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's got to be a dream come true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. I mean, being drafted, and then Toronto was one of my favorite teams growing up. Like, my dad in the Air Force, living in Alberta and also Nova Scotia. Like, loved the Canadians, but you had probably the federal content law. With you have to have so much Canadian stuff, but you end up loving the teams that are right there in your country. And then I was a big Buffalo fan, Minnesota fan as well. But to get drafted there, that was amazing. I didn't have the opportunity to go down to the draft. Being that was back in 1982, and the big fanfare and all that, social media and stuff was non-existent. So just basically the guys that lived around, or maybe an agent from out of town, the western side or something, would bring him in, and typically it was in Toronto. So I didn't have a chance to get down. We found out like in the morning. I was back in Lethbridge, Alberta, having breakfast with my billet family. There's a great story too. You might want to hear.
Go for it.
Yeah. I'm sitting there the night before the draft, and I sitting down with Bruce and Bernice Reb and my billet family, and Bruce says to me, he goes, "Despite of all you hear, like you're reading the paper and stuff, what do you think's going to happen tomorrow? Where do you think you're going to go? Do you think you'll get drafted? All the questions." And I said, "Well, let me tell you something." I said, "This is what I think." I said, when I was in grade 5 and living in Nova Scotia, I got called for detention, for doing something in class, and it was laughing too much. I couldn't stop laughing. We were goofing around, and so I go to the detention class. It was my history teacher, Donnie Hislop. I'm heading down there next month too to see him for inauguration to the little Kingston Greenwood Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. But anyway, so Donnie's running the detention center. Center sounds like something big. There's a handful of us there. And he introduces me. He goes, "This is Ken Wregget, the next All-Star goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs." And that was in grade 5 in Nova Scotia. So I can't even think what year that would be. Flash forward, I'm sitting down with my billet family with Bruce, and he says all his questions. "Where do you think you're going to go?" And I said, "I think I'm going to get drafted in the 3rd round." And he said, "Why do you think that?" And I said, "Well, we knew this guy up around where we lived, and he was drafted in the 5th round." And I said, "I think I'm a little bit better goaltender than he is." So I gave myself the 3rd. I was young, and he says, "Who do you think he'll go to?" And I said, "I think Toronto." I said, "Here's why." And I told him the story about detention in the whole 9 years. He kind of laughed at me. So off we go the rest of the night. Next morning, get up, we're having breakfast now. So phone rings. Bernice gets up, answers it. She goes, "Ken, it's for you." So we all know what it's about. And it's about 9:30 in the morning because of practice. We didn't start school until 10:30. So this was June, whatever, 9th, I think. So I get on. It's my agent secretary, and they're at the draft up in Toronto, and all the wishes you luck, and you've been drafted in the 3rd round by Toronto. I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." She goes, "Jerry McNamara will be calling you back later on this afternoon. Congratulations. Look forward to working with you. Thank you very much." All that. So now I go sit down at the table. So I start eating, and Bruce looks at me. He goes, all right, what is it?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Toronto." I said, "That's it." And he goes, "3rd round?" I said, "You got it." And that's what happened. It's amazing that happened.
Crazy.
And yeah.
You just spoke it into existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it like for you walking in the first time there, and you're walking in and you're seeing like Salming and like all these guys in the dressing room? Are you kind of like, like I would be like trying not to freak out walking in the dressing room with those guys?
Yeah. No, I mean, Boreas Salming stuck out in my mind because I remember going to Somerset, Prince Edward Island, and staying with the Billet family, and I was staying in the guys' room. He gave his room, and he had all the Toronto Maple Leafs on the door. Boreas Salming was right there in the middle, and then to walk in the dressing room and it's training camp. Then all of a sudden you're going through all the physicals and stuff, and you're seeing these guys and guys you saw on hockey cars and stuff growing up, and it's just amazing. It's overwhelming, really. I mean, it's really, really tough to settle yourself down. My first game that I played in Toronto Maple Leafs, in Maple Leaf Gardens, the first regular season, I got on the ice to skate around, and I wasn't even playing the game. I was just skating around, and it was like the whole building felt like it was collapsing on you, and like the pressure on you. And it's like I forgot to skate. It's just some of the maybe guys like Mario and the big guys really deal with that well, obviously. But for some of us, like, we're just in awe and having the honor to be in that position, the privilege.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
I'm just taking a look at that 82 draft as well. You were the first goaltender taken in that draft. Was that a point of pride for you to say, "Hey, I was the first goalie taken in the 82 draft"?
Because you're drafted, I just being drafted, that was in Toronto, like that was it. And those were the numbers, and that was like, yeah, okay. I didn't really think a whole lot of it. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, when I look back on it now and think about that that wasn't only the first goalie drafted that year. That was the first goalie drafted in the world.
Wow.
Think about it. However, now you got to put in that there was communism, there was Czechoslovakia back then. Not Czech Republic and Slovakia. Like there was all that going on around the world. So I often wonder to myself, if I was drafted 20 years later, everything respective and the world was opened up like it is now in the draft, where would I have fit in? Because that's what the kids nowadays are competing with. It's a world draft. Back then, you hear stories about guys, defecting the country and their families being at risk and them getting shot at crossing the border and scouts and stuff that have gone over there to get them. It's some crazy stuff this league's gone through to get to the point it is. It's nice to see, but I mean, they fought for their hockey. They love hockey. They love hockey around the globe.
Toronto, though, man, to play there is like, it's such high pressure in Toronto. Like, you know what I mean? It probably always feels like the whole hockey world is looking at you the entire time. And what's wild too is like, it's been like that for years. And like, I understand it's original six franchise and stuff like that. But it's just like, how was it for you that first time you got to skate out Maple Leaf Gardens? I mean, sellout crowd, place rocking, but you're in the game. Like, how now? Do you hear all that, or were you okay at like blocking out all the noise?
No, Maple Leaf Garden is one of the classic older buildings, old stone. It's a high, it's not laid back type of thing. Everything's right on top. Harold Ballard at the one end zone had his window, his little booth there. I know I would have stuck my head in there a couple times, but to see him sitting there with King Clancy at the one end and the glass, and then like I said, my first game playing even exhibition, that 16,000, and I would imagine every single game that I played or attended in that building since I've ever been in that building has been sold out to the rafters. Yeah. I mean, those tickets get well down. People go to Buffalo to watch games. People come here from Toronto to watch games. If they get, because they have a better chance. Some of them, for seeing Toronto play here in Pittsburgh, Buffalo is kind of too close almost. But this is a nice weekend spot. But anyways, those older buildings, like Maple Leaf Gardens, like it's so iconic. And to see, the people that helped build it back then, and then to walk in up, up the escalator and to see the pictures around, and this up top with the old rink in its glory, like it was amazing. I remember in playoffs, I don't know, 85, 86, somewhere around there, which they still do that, and that's how passionate they are. But the rink is so loud, and it's so it's so electric in that building, just like almost it felt like every game had a sense of being electric, like playoffs in any series or not any series, any city later in the series, especially the Cup Finals or leading up into that. It just always has that electricity going, and a lot of those older buildings they did. And it was an honor. It was an honor to walk around. I used to walk around and just sit in some of the buildings, Boston, Chicago, playing for Toronto in Chicago. That first year, best of five series for me. I can't remember what year it was. My 85, we won 2 out of 3, and we finished with 52 points. After when we started the first game in Chicago Stadium, after the national anthem was so loud in there, it just never stopped. And I'm a rookie there. You're talking about, being nervous to the max, and but it was like I was nervous, but it was like the thrill was so great that it just overcame all that. Puck drops, the guy pokes it forward, the winger steps around, pushes it down in the corner, flies in. Our defenseman turns it, blue line starts going in. I'd be in the front. I'm trying to yell. Their guys on him. I'm trying to yell, man on you. I can't even hear myself yell. It was so loud still for the national anthem. That's what those older buildings were like. It was, they were awesome. Even going to hockey games now. I was down for the Fleury game last Thursday, and that was preseason, and they sold out a preseason game. They kept him playing in the. I'm sorry, I'm rambling all over.
No, it's all good.
just trying to get you a little electricity. But
Oh yeah, we're good.
but to have that feeling and the whole hockey's like a cult following. It has such a it seems to be rooted so deep. The people that follow it really the passion's there. The passion's it's been built through all those years, hundred years.
Absolutely.
Looking at the year 1984 is a really big year for you. You win the WHL goaltender of the year. You play for Team Canada at the World Juniors, and then you make your NHL debut where you make 48 saves in a win against Hartford. Like that's a crazy year, Ken. Like you got to do a whole lot of things. You're playing junior, you're playing at the World Juniors in Sweden, and then you go up to the show and you make a really big, the first impression by putting up nearly 50 saves in a win against Hartford. Like when you look back at 1984, like what sticks out to you?
Uh, with that you're right. There was like I got things in each little place here. The biggest thing in '84, I guess, was probably playing the first NHL game for me in Hartford. Uh, with in the mall there with their the classic jerseys too. And again, I was the guy that got nervous. I always looked at being nervous as being prepared. And so before the game, I taping sticks up, and I was talking Billy DeLego and John Anderson came along and Rick Vive, and that's their top line at that point. I'm out a junior, right? Like wow. So here I am talking to those guys, and one of the guys said to the other guy, he goes, "Stop 50, kid, and we'll win." And they're all laughing and walked away. I'm thinking, like, I think Rick Vive was a 50 goal scorer not too long ago. He could probably do that again, hopefully all tonight. So we get into the game, and Ed Staniowski's playing, and yeah, it turns into a shootout. It's not going well, but we're getting our goals too, and there were some terrible goals, but not often. You play your first NHL game and you let 6 goals in, and you actually win the game. So we came out a winner. It's 8-6. And as Staniowski's going by after the game, he kind of gave me a little handshake and nod, and he said, "Great game, good luck, kid. You have a great career." He's a nice guy.
Love it. When it's loud and everything like that, do you find that once you actually face a few like shots, would you kind of like settle in, or would the nerves just keep kicking?
Yeah, I think for pretty much anybody, you want to see a couple of shots early, to get into it, because you just come over warm up. You've been slaking up for the game for however long since your last game, which could have been the night before. I mean, you practice probably the morning before to get ready for the game. So yeah, you want to get in there. You want to get some shots. If you are a person like me, like I said, I didn't think nerves were bad. I thought they were good. I think if you feel that energy, I guess, channel it in a positive direction. But if you don't get the shots, then you're better. You're eventually going to settle yourself down because you're moving around and you'll keep yourself going just to know, and you know what's coming after a while.
Yeah,
It maybe when you're younger, but it doesn't really matter. You get a lot of shots anyways. But
After 6 seasons in Toronto, you get traded to Philly. Were you upset that you got traded to the Philadelphia Flyers, or were you just kind of looking forward to a new opportunity with a new team?
First off, before you answer that, who was in your trade? Do you remember who you were traded for?
at that point, it was 2 first-round draft picks, but I think one turned into Bancroft. Is that right? And the other one, I'm not too sure.
So still though, 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, well, that was. Think of this one now. So this is me going to Philly, who had Pete Peters and Ron Hextall at the time, and then Ken Wregget comes in for 2 first-round picks. So you can think of how and Philly's got some of the most passionate fans around. We all know that.
They're insane.
Right. So that was kind of like, a little bit of a hair raiser. What are they going to do? How are they going to work it type of thing. So, and they had a pretty good team. It wasn't too far off of the Pelly Lindbergh, unfortunate incident. And that's why I was 35 and not 31. But they had a great team that went to the finals against Edmonton not too long before that. It was a bit of time, but not too long. So there was still they were still a playoff team. They're still a good team. They're, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got three big goalies. So, and I got to jump in on this one too. The first home game I played in Philadelphia, right? So I played one game against Boston the day before. I got pulled after two periods. Uh, and then I had to play. I started the next game against Toronto at home in Philadelphia, in the Spectrum. So I may be a couple off on this, but I'm not too sure I am. So after the first period, it was 5-0 for Philly for us. I'm thinking like, all right, good. I know not to get cocky or too confident.
Yeah.
Just maintain, work hard, keep hard. Well, that didn't work. Halfway through or so of the second period, they tied up 5-5, right? Wow. Yeah. So this is me just get traded for 2 first-round draft picks. First home game. So the glass, I don't think was quite as tall, but it was tall. But they definitely didn't have the netting on top. So some guy, behind me, as we're lining up for the face-off after the tying goal, I'm at the top of my crease. The ref's about to drop the puck center ice. In comes this wax paper Coke cup. Smack. I mean, perfectly in the back of my head. Just poof. Like I just saw everything all over the ice, like brown Coke, and it was like I don't really remember much what I did after that, whether I looked up at the stands or I just remember seeing the big stain on the ice and I thought, oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah. Welcome to Philly. Oh, hey, Philly fans, that's probably still not too far off this, to this day.
No, however, so I didn't see a whole lot of things going on, about after that, but it wasn't because of me. That was just unfortunate. We won the game. I mean, come on, who cares? We won the game.
Yeah.
So now we get into playoffs, right? So we're in the end of the second round, fifth game. Ronnie Hextall, Merrill Lemieux and Robbie Brown and all them were doing their thing, and it was a 9 game, right? And that's when Hextall came out and he was in the windmill and chasing Ronnie Brown up the wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that.
Psycho.
I forgot. Yeah. So anyway, the game goes on. So I go in. He gets pulled by the coach. Oh, we're on the bench. I'm standing. I'm laughing. I'm kind of chuckling so he can't see me. So I think I'm talking to the trainer, just laughing because it kind of looked funny. Holmgren, the coach, looks down at me, goes, "Right, you're in." I go, "Oh shit!" Yeah. So I grab my stuff, get my thing. So I go in the net, play it out. Well, it's game is really chippy. We're about I don't know 3 or 5 minutes left in the third. It's a 5-on-3. We got the 3 being Philly. Keith Acton's taking the face off. He's got a stick on everybody's ankle. He's agitating the referee. Put it that way. He's under everybody's skin. Puck drops offside dot in just outside of my zone, Philly zone. 5-on-3 starts breaking out. Right, I come out. Buskis gets a hold of me, and he's one of their, if not the top guy. I don't know if G. Caulfield, G would have been around there. Thank God he didn't grab me. But yeah, I ended up black eye, fat lip, arm pads, gloves, helmet, everything off. Had my pads, pants on. That's about it. Got escorted off the ice. Hextall's got to come back in at that point. And then that was game 5, and then we go on to game 6. I can't remember what the series was. Well, I don't think we had the lead, so we would have won game 6 probably, and then we went back to Pittsburgh game 7. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know. I knew like guys have aches and pains, but Ronnie had a bit of an ache, I guess, in his knee. It ended up being a ligament. So game 7 now, here's back to the backup stories. Game 7, I get thrown in the net. And I remember being in the Marriott Hotel. I'm not even sure it was a Marriott, just outside of the Igloo in Pittsburgh here. And I get the call. I find out like just as I was about to, just as like in the afternoon, put it this way, after practice, And then I just remember seeing the curtains at the hotel and the igloo thing. Going, holy crap! Here's the guy that gets nervous, right? So I was able to settle down, no problem. But it was always with me. And then Turk Evers, he was one of our sick guys. He said to me, equipment guys, I should say. He said to me under the stands. I said, "Man, am I nervous?" He goes, and he was always a funny guy. Had that smile and grin on his face. He said, "He goes, when you were a kid, you always dream about times like this?" I said, "Yeah, you're right." He goes, "Well, you're here now."
Yeah, just go play.
So it's like, all right, yeah. So I went back and I told Mark Howe, and I said I got a hold of him, and I said, "Howie," I said I'm not Ronnie Hextall. I said I can't play the point down power play. I said because there's a big difference when, especially with big contrast. If you want to contrast myself, who's kind of like the lumberjack on ice, will try to work his way thing, to Ronnie Hextall that can move around, can whip the puck around, will lay his stick across the side of your head. So you got to be careful. And we just have two different styles. Is what I'm trying to say. So, so anyways, I said so if the puck goes in, he's able to get it, and he's able to hit a guy up the wall, whatever. I can do that, not as good, not as consistently. Probably the level of errors higher too, the further it goes down the ice. So, Howie said to me, he said, he said, let's get everybody together. So we got the defensive. We're going to have defensive meetings. We got all the defensemen and everything. We kind of went over things, and I just said, I'm not Ronnie. I can't do that. I said, I can get back and stop it. I can, tell you what's on you. I'll move it. You can rely on me, but it's two different games. Just know that. And they said, just stop, because this is your base. You want to get down to the basics. Stop the first shot. We got the rest. Talking about making a goaltender feel good right there. So I go into the game, stop the puck, first puck. That was it. We won the game 4-1. The only goal was Mario. He stuck his stick between his legs going across the front, and which would have been a penalty. He would give me the can opener, but that's how you play the game. It's not cheating. You're not trying.
That's crazy though, man. I couldn't imagine being in that game 7 and you got Mario Lemieux bearing down on you. It's like, especially as a goalie, it's like not fun. It's just watching him, all of his highlight reels and him just terrorizing goalies and guys on D. And it's just like, whew, that's a tall order.
I tell you, when I first came here from Philly, I thought I was playing pretty good too. And he would come down the ice and practice, and all you hear is boom, boom. The puck hitting the back of the net. Like it was humiliating. It was humbling, put it that way.
Humiliating and humbling.
Yeah. And then in '92, we were playing Boston in the conference finals, and he turned Ray Bork inside out, back and forth, and then scored a goal. I was on the bench. I looked up at Sevy, or our trainer, Sevy, at that point, and I said, "I'm not good enough to play in this league." That was the league above everybody on the ice. That was insane.
Speaking of that 1992 year, because that was the year you guys ended up like winning it all. Going into that year, could you guys just tell that kind of something, like, was there a feeling in the air? Like, could you just kind of tell that something was brewing?
But like when I came from Philly, man.
Yeah, and you just walk in there and you see everybody, and it's just like, man, like we got something special here.
I mean, like when you first get the call that you're getting traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, who just won the cup, it must be like, hey, does my bus leave now, or do I have to wait? Like, how excited were you to go to Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I mean, things to go to a team that you think is won the cup in the year before is the best thing in the world, and it's gonna, everything's all made, and you just got to put it on the jersey, play your job, do your position. It's just a walk through the park. It's not a walk through the park. I mean, you're putting your gear on. You're putting your gear on. You're going through the fields. You're going through the trenches. You're going through everything to get from point A to point B. Whether you are a backup goalie or whether you're not, you know what I mean? Like, maybe I only played 40 minutes, but you always had to be ready. But the guys that and like I mentioned, when you're not playing, you got to get ready. You got the assistant coaches that got to make sure that the guys are ready to play. They got the guys, the backups, third, fourth, seventh, eighth, seventh, sixth, fifth, sixth. They got to. That's when I learned all that type of thing. Where you got to get better. You gotta help each other. The coaches, assistant coaches help the goaltenders because we got an extra goaltender. But you always got to make sure you're ready. Whatever you do, you're not going to just walk into it with. And then when we did come down. I remember talking to someone saying like, "Man, I don't get it. Like, why isn't Philly like it was like the panic button was always pressed?" And I full respect for the Steiners as well, Jay and Ed, and God bless. But they wanted to win. They wanted to win, and they were intense, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then you go to Pittsburgh, and maybe it's ran differently. So you got maybe more of a corporate, family owned, to more of it's kind of a more of a country club. It was a little bit looser type of thing. It was, maybe just a little bit looser. Like we were. I'm not sure if we were out of playoffs by a couple points or something with like 2 weeks left or something silly like that. And I remember talking to someone saying, I remember in Philly, we go the panic button. And the other side is that here, everybody's not worried about it. He said, I don't get it. Here I am. My wife at that point, she was pregnant with my son. I'm worrying about that. I'm by myself over here. And I was thinking, how do I understand things? And the comment was, wait, maybe that's the difference between confidence and no confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought about it a little bit. Then I had a cup.
Yeah.
I was going to say confidence, man, walking into that room there.
Now, between that conversation and the cup, we went through, I think there was a 2 week like hockey layoff or something, or lockout or strike or something went on. And then this is a funny story that's got to be thrown in there. Like me and Wendell Young were playing this one game in Madison Square Garden. Now think about this in Madison Square Garden. And Scotty said something about the last team to do something like this won the game, won the Stanley Cup that year. And it was back in the original six time. I don't remember much more about that than that. But anyway, what Wendell and I had to do, I was starting the game, and every 5 minutes I was coming out, Wendell was coming in. So this was happening through the entire game. All right. So confidence and no confidence. So these guys, they start running a pool to say, if you guys do it on the fly, well, I think the pool is up to $400, which was a lot. It's a lot of money. So if Wendell and I switched on the fly, not waited for a whistle, we got split at $400. So it was we got through the first period, second period. So the third period, I start, and then about getting down towards the five, because you're watching for the 5 minute spot. So the next thing, the puck's down their zone, but there was still not quite enough, and we didn't have enough control, I thought. But I was at the top of my crease. I could hear Wendell over my ear, like in the corner on the bench, and Madison Square Garden's going, breaks. So I look over, and Scotty Bowman's over. Come on, let's go. So I started going over. I look up, and just as I made my commitment that I was going, puck gets turned over in our zone. I'm not sure. Messier got a hold of it or something. So they start coming up. I'm going off. Wendell jumps early, and I got to dive over the boards. Top of my pads hit the top of the boards. Just a yard sale by the time I hit the net. Wendell dives in. He makes a hell of a save, stop a goal. The whole Madison Square Garden is going nuts. Scotty's down the end of the bench going, they did it.
Yeah. That's $400 and we're winning the cup. That's hilarious though.
Yeah.
Especially to do it at like Madison Square Gardens too. It's like one of the most famous arenas like ever.
Right.
That's like always sold out. It's always jam packed. I'm looking at this roster though, and like Paul Coffey, Larry Murphy, Ulf Samuelson. This is just to name a few. Ronnie Francis, Jaromir Jagr, Mario Lemieux, Kevin Stevens, Rick Tocchet, Brian Trottier. Like you played with literally some of the greatest hockey players of all time. Like,
I was very, very, very fortunate. Yeah, just having the honor to play in the league, and to bump around and see these guys. Like I had the chance to be at a bar and be at a number of places, but to sit beside Wayne Gretzky, the Team Canada that you were talking about earlier, 1 year. but just to have and I went. One thing was I was living in Toronto, and they were getting ready for the Canada Cup. I can't remember what year it was, 92, 93, something like that. But anyways, the Canada Cup went on one year, and I remember we're sitting there watching them on TV, like training and stuff. And this was in like later July or August or early. And I was thinking, like, boy, Kevin wouldn't want to get on one of those, treadmills right now trying to do that oxygen test. So I was kind of chuckling about it. And later on that night, about I don't know, 7 o'clock, I had a phone call from my agent Rick Kerr, and he was saying that the Grant Fuhr couldn't make it because his wife was pregnant and he just had the baby. So because I was around, do you mind helping out? So I said, yeah, sure. So I went there, and here I am now. I get to play with all the best people in Canada. Okay, so you're talking about Gretzky, you're talking about Wayne, talking about all Barry with that. You're talking about all those guys, and I was like the extra goalie, and I would do every practice, even the skating drills. And finally, one of the coaches said, I think it was one of the setters, he said, you don't have to do it every time because they know you're in shape by now. But I looked at it as an opportunity to be able to play against some of those guys. Like even when I was here in Pittsburgh, like Yager used to stay out for like hour after practice to break boys and shots. But I just knew that would make me better. So I used to get up early and go work out the rink.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used to do practice, practice, and then I learned a good work ethic, and then I'd hang out with the guys as long as I could. Again, that gets into the 92 and working with the guys that need to help work them because it always helps you out too.
One of the things I have to ask you is before we move on from your time there is, so I played in a charity hockey thing with Larry Murphy. Okay. Yeah. And he was telling us some stories. Were you on the team the year that the Stanley Cup ended up in the bottom of Mario's pool?
I've heard a couple different stories from the 91 and the 92 year.
Okay.
But I didn't stop by the house after I went from the plane back home.
So do you know the whole backstory on that? And if you do, can you tell us?
I don't. I'd be the wrong one to ask on that one. I just know there's. Okay. Yeah, you're. Unfortunately, you got the wrong guy on this.
Well, what does it feel like? What did it feel like to raise that Stanley Cup when you guys won it, though?
Everybody says it's light as a feather.
I'm sorry. Can you say it again?
I was just gonna say, what did it feel like? You'd been in the league for a long time at that point. When you guys won the Stanley Cup in '92, what did that feel like to raise it over your head and my name's gonna be on the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, that was quite the feeling because, like, again, that was something you dream about your entire life, and you see all the guys on the ice, and you're congratulating each other. You've gone through so much together that there's just all kinds of little things running through your head, like. And then to actually for me to see the cup sitting there, see the cup up in the air and stuff, and then just waiting for that opportunity. And Tommy turned, and when Tommy got it, and he kind of turned and looked for me, and it was that was really nice. I really appreciate that. That cup was, I don't know, light. Not as heavy as this thing right here.
I was gonna say everybody says it's light as a feather as soon as you lift it.
Yeah.
That's great. Hey, you might have had a few out of that, eh? Drinking out of it that night, or what? How long did that go on for? Was this like wee hours of the morning after celebrating?
Yeah, there. I know. You see, you're still probing there, by the way. But yeah, it went on. I mean, it goes on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it just that first couple of days, and if the cup shows up, the management's got to take a hold of it at some point because they have their fun, and just then you start getting into a script of what needs to be done with the right thing to the right places and stuff. Mm-hmm.
Now,
but just to have the hockey after 2 months of year, but the 2 grinding months is just it's hard to turn the page, and really it takes you a couple weeks to a couple months to really be able to sit back and
Now, back then, did you get your one? Because now everybody gets like 24 hours with it. Did you get that too?
Well, I was supposed to have it one day, and Craig Patrick needed it for a golf tournament. So about a week before, or less, I think it was a little bit less than a week before, I was up for a contract. They asked me if they could take it on my day, and I gracefully said that would be great. So I told them, but I just picked another date, which worked out in my time frame, and that worked out. It worked out better because I had a day for a week more closer to a weekend type of thing.
Oh,
So it
sweet.
worked out. Yeah, so I was able to back things up, but at that point, I think with Scott North, he was I don't know if I'm phrasing this right, but the curator at the Hockey Hall of Fame, he was getting the cup back on Friday night, and he didn't need it till Monday morning. He said, Kenny, you can have it all weekend if you want. He said, just bring it back here by Sunday night at like whatever time. So that was like the huge bonus. So I brought it up to I brought it downtown Toronto to a bar. I can't remember the name of the bar. A buddy of mine was they worked a little bit in the off season, like learning real estate and things like that. Took a few courses and worked with him. His buddy was playing, so we put it on the stage, and it was kind of neat in Toronto. Just put it on the stage and didn't say anything to anybody, and the band knew. And people, once everybody found out, but they were all cool sitting down. They come up and they could, they put a drink in there, and there was someone looking after it. But meant the world to the people in the bar and stuff. So we said we just got to get it out of there, like give them a couple hours, and then drove it back, drove it back to the farm. We lived on a farm at that point, the in-laws farm, and we put it in the field with some seed. We had a pitcher with some cattle feeding out of it, some Herefords. We brought it up to the Jaws of Life as well.
Sweet.
To a fireplace to raise money for the Jaws of Life up in I think it was Orangeville, Ontario, and then because that's on the way to cottage country, and people rush up those back roads, so they need that. So we're able to help them out, and then brought it over to where my mom lived in Belleville, Ontario, about 2 hours east of Toronto, for a radio station to raise some money in the morning for the local charities. At that point, this is on Sunday afternoon. I put it on my mom's lawn for 3 hours. I went and took some pictures with, important, the ones that had to take. I went and lied down for 2 hours, got back in the truck and drove home. But driving along the 401, which is the major highway between Toronto and Montreal, I had a blue Chevy pickup, step side. I think it was 88. I put it in the passenger seat with the seatbelt on, and I drove down 2 hours down the road like that. It was crazy.
I would have slept with that thing.
People who had cameras, there was no cell phones at that point. People who had had the disposables or taking picture, and people were honking.
Yeah, the Kodaks.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I would have said, "Sorry, honey, I'm sleeping with Stanley tonight. You're gonna have to."
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you stayed in Pittsburgh for quite a while after that. And you actually in the one lockout shortened season, you actually led the NHL in wins with 25. And that was the year that you were also in the top. You were fifth in Vezina voting. After a long career like that, what was it like to have a pretty banner year and to get recognized as one of the top goalies in the league?
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was a great feeling. It was just the fact. I know it was it was a shortened year, and it was to know you're playing, and the way the guys were playing, and they will play as well as we were playing. It meant a lot, I think, to everybody, because I think we're at the point where we thought we were going to lose the season totally. So it was like there's some guys that had some really good years, and I guess when you only play 48 games, every game matters that little much more, and we just have the right chemistry. And I know personally, I felt really good, and I was doing a lot of things right, and kind of fell more into a groove than I had up until that point. That might have been one of the best year I had game to game for that likewise, although it was shorter. Yeah.
And if you look up, like if you type in, Ken Wregget on Google or wherever it says, a lot of the times you'll see Penguin's mask, and you've got the iconic Penguin, whereas the Danny DeVito penguin on top. Like, where did that idea come from? Because that was a killer movie at the time. I love that movie. Like, where did that idea come from? And like, do you ever get questions about that?
Yeah, that's funny. That every Halloween that helmet comes out like on one of the sports channels in the top 5 or something like that. They've gotten pretty good since then too. I think it's may have fallen a little bit, but it always ends up pretty good. The Danny DeVito as Oswald Cobblepot in the Batman Forever movie, I think it was, or
Batman Returns.
Returns movie. Yeah, Batman Returns. There was concern that there would be copyright infringement law. You know, if I wore it, 'cause I was wearing that mask on I think it was Fox TV or something, on the afternoon games or something, because they didn't like it. They wanted me to get out of that SK 600 because it was blunt. Yeah,
I was gonna ask you about that.
yeah. So actually, I got it in my car. But they wanted me. That thing was really unsafe. So they wanted me to get me into a mask, and the masks were not. They were heavy. They were fiberglass. They were heavy, and there was just a lot of. I wasn't comfortable with them. So when they sent me home with just a mask that summer. So I didn't like it. I came back to put the other helmet on. This guy came out with this mask. I have all the details in a written thing because I've made replicas of masks. Sheeran or something like that, from somewhere in Europe, Scandinavia. He's since passed away, but he made these Kevlar masks that were light. I don't believe they were CSA approved, but they were better than the one I always have that wasn't CSA approved either. I got the mask, and I got a guy, Greg Bray, to make molds of the mask. Each mask is hand molded by fiberglass, and they're all different, but they're all replicas of that exact mask mold. Or who's a local artist locally here, renowned, and she pastels the Oswald Cobblepot, the picture of the penguin on it, and they sheen it off, and it looks very good. So each one is unique. It's actually a work of art and actually quite heavy type of thing. So we're using them for the St. Jude auction. I'm a member of their setup committee, St. Jude, and some other area local charities. So we use them to raise money for whatever charity they're working on. And so I get this call from Cal Sachi, that's CALCACI or something like that. And he's the guy whose name is on the mask. Now, here was the other person I couldn't get a hold of. They wanted to tell that we were doing this for charities, but he tracked me down through the internet. So I got a message to call this guy. So I'm thinking like, oh boy, I wonder how this is going to turn out. I get on the phone with a great guy. He's from Buffalo, New York. He worked at a motorcycle paint shop, and he painted motorcycles. And he wanted to know when I was returning the mask, the original mask, to the Hockey Hall of Fame, because that was his time to fame.
Yeah,
which I totally get it. So I said, it's been back there about 2 months since I got this message. I said yeah. So I talked to him, and he said he did a mask for Darren Pupa, and he did another mask. He did like 3 masks, and that was the one that made it to the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I mean, I'd be super proud of that. So I said, no worries, it's back in there right now. And I just told him what we did, and I told him if he's ever down through Pittsburgh to make sure he stops by, and I'd love to get his autograph or see if he can even make one too. So,
man. Yeah,
that's just like one of those situations where you get lightning in a bottle, right? Yeah. And it's just like it kind of takes on a life of its own, and that's that's hockey for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things too, I didn't really it's not that I didn't realize, but I kind of totally forgot, is you were a Red Wing at a point in time as well. Brett and I are big like Red Wing guys, so you're walking into that room and it's like you were probably paired up with Chris Osgood was there, Chelios was there, like guys like that, Nick like Lidstrom, and you met up with your buddy again, Larry Murphy there. How was it there? Actually, was McCarty on the team? Yes, he was. So
yes, he was. Yeah,
Mac is good friends with us. So if you have a story on D-Mac, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do not have a story on that Darren McCarty.
We tried. We tried.
But yeah, that was quite some time. I went from Philly to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh. I went to Calgary. I was actually on a no trade contract here in Pittsburgh,
Okay.
and I knew as edging towards the end of my career type of thing. And like I grew up in Cold Lake, Alberta, which was 3 hours outside of Edmonton, which is 3 hours north of Calgary.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to go back out west to retire type of thing. So I was thinking that my brother was going to do the same thing. And then I had back issues here in Pittsburgh and never fully recovered going into Calgary. And on that no trade, I waived it because I was supposed to go to Nashville in the
Expansion draft.
expansion draft, and I knew it was coming towards my end. And in hindsight, I don't know. Nashville would have been cool as anything, but like I said, I was kind of gearing up for afterlife, and so I waved the no track. German Titoff got traded here, and I went over to Calgary. I was there for a year, and the back thing took me out half the season. Detroit signed me after that, and then that's how I got to Detroit. Which for me, that was I was looking for someone, and I thought they were in a good direction type of thing, and it was just tough for me to get comfortable in Detroit coming from Toronto, the rivalry, like.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Philly, no problem, but I could not do the Toronto Detroit one, so I couldn't get comfortable. But they were kind of set in their ways, and I was kind of an older backup goaltender that they wanted to push Ozzy a little bit. And at the end of that year, I got sent. Well, started the next season, I got sent down to the Manitoba Moose, which is by Brandon, Manitoba,
Mhm.
which is a circle, right?
Full circle there.
So, I was in Detroit, and I was in training camp, and I wasn't getting any ice time. Like I guess they told him like you were going to send them down, but they had me sitting there. They were trying to figure out what they're doing. I did that for about 5 days a week type of thing, and finally Kenny Holland, where the practice facility, called me in the one of the other locker rooms, and then Jimmy Nill was there too. He came in, and Eddie Holland was asking me. He was telling me he's going to send me down to Pittsburgh or down to Manitoba, and was asking me, he's just telling me I was getting sent down. And I was kind of, yeah. I kind of thought I wasn't playing in practice, kind of leading that way. And he said, and he kind of like wanted me to say something what I thought about why I was getting sent down, and I kind of I got up from where I was sitting kind of beside him down the bench a bit, and I stood kind of in the middle of the room. Jimmy Neal came and stood there, and I said, you got me. I said, you got me here to press Ozzy. I said, I did the best I could. I sat once for 25 days. I sat once for 31 days. I said, and I pointed some things out, and he didn't like that a whole lot, and that's the terms we left on. And then I went down. I threw my equipment in the back of my truck. I got home and I tried to throw it in the tree, and I sat there for a couple of days. And they told me, I got, you can either retire, we're going to try to get you a trade, or down in Winnipeg, down to Manitoba. So I went down to Manitoba, and then after a month, there really wasn't anything going on, and I said after a month I'd make my decision. So I talked about retiring at that point, and I thought, I can't retire. I can't leave these guys. I can't end my career like that. That's, to me, that's being selfish. That's not being very grateful. So I played the season out in Winnipeg, and we made the second round of the playoffs you only had 3 rounds there at that point in the AHL. I learned how much I knew about hockey from the guys asking me questions. I was 36. They were, 19, 21, that type of thing, out of junior. And, living in apartments. And I tell you what, we had the most fun year there. And I realized how much I could help those guys. And Scotty Arneal was the assistant coach there. And Randy Carlisle was the head coach.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh boy. So when I finally meet the team, they waited a couple of days for me to make my decision, about 2 or 3 days, and then I met them down in Florida, and I was supposed to meet Randy. I was there before the team was. I was supposed to meet Randy Carlisle. Go to his room like when they got in. So he called me. So I went to his room and I knock on the door. Walk in, and he goes. First thing he says to me, he goes, "Whatever you do, don't wake up one morning in 2 weeks and decide you're leaving." He said, "Give me 2 weeks." He said, "Give me 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks notice." I said, "All right." And he kind of opened the door, and I walked out. So I was kind of wondering what the hell just happened at that point. So he didn't like me a whole lot. So which wasn't my fault. It was from the guy who was there prior to me. He got up in the middle of the night and left the team on the road somewhere, and he had nobody. He was stranded. So so I kind of understood that. So I tried to help the team out. Johan Hedberg was the other goalie on the team. He ended up getting traded from San Jose up to Pittsburgh, type of thing.
Yeah.
And I tried to help the kids out, so that's how I finished my last year was down in Winnipeg. And we were raising money to raise awareness for the Winnipeg Jets and the new Coliseum and everything. And the general manager there, he asked me. He's always trying to make sure I'm happy. He says, what can we do here? He says, can we do anything that that you think would be like that you saw somewhere else that you'd like to do? And I said, I'm glad you asked that. I said two things. And here I'm the old guy, right? So I thought I'd ask for two things because they're pretty much coming from the team. I said, can we practice outside? It's like we're in an institution. I said, can we practice outside on an outdoor ice rink? I said, I know I'd love that. I said, I think everybody else would like to do that too one day. Because, well, I'll tell you those rules later. And then the next one was I wanted an ice fishing tournament with all the corporate sponsors and stuff. And we did that. We did that. We didn't do the outdoor rink. Yeah, we had our trucks parked right behind the whole team sponsors, like on the Red River at the mouth of, I'm not sure if it's Lake Winnipeg or Lake Manitoba, but ice fishing for walleye is phenomenal up there. Just and you go right home and you cook it up. It's crazy insane. So.
Well, down where we're from, we do a walleye tournament here in at Lake Erie too. So we know all about we know all about walleye fishing. Not much ice fishing around here. We don't get enough
Doesn't
ice
get cold enough
down in Windsor, but
yeah.
Which is wild.
So you finished up your career after you play for Manitoba, and that must have been a nice full circle moment. You end up with 575 games played, Ken. When you look at that number. And you of course you have the third most wins out of for a Pittsburgh Penguins goaltender too. When you look at those numbers, like you have to have some pride in your chest. Like, man, I played 575 games in the NHL, and like there's a couple seasons there where you've played 50 plus games in a season. Like that's incredible. Like you talk about you were on a really, really good team in Pittsburgh. Like, oh wow, I was really fortunate to play with those guys. Like Ken, like you were an incredible goaltender too. You're being humble. Like that's an incredible career that you have.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I have no regrets whatsoever. 575, that's how many wins Fleury has. I was in the league 1,100 and some games type of thing.
That's wild. But think about it though. Western League champ, first team All-Star there, goaltender of the year, Stanley Cup champion, NHL most wins, 94, 95. Like that's
those are good. Those are great stats. Yeah. First goalie drafted in the world in 82.
Yeah,
that's right.
Is that good? Is that good?
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah,
and now you guys have and of course, and then in 2009 you got inducted into the Manitoba Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So when that came about, was that just kind of a little cherry on top, like 7-8 years after you retired?
Yeah, that was nice, very nice for them honoring me. I wish I didn't make it up for the ceremony. Unfortunately, they were very gracious to get me in there, and I'd like to somehow make it up to them. But the Manitoba Hall of Fame, that's definitely a feather in your cap, and some good people, some strong people in there. So it's good to be part of that one. Out in, like I said, my dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed in Nova Scotia at the Greenwood Kingston area. Greenwood CFB, Canadian Forces Base, Greenwood, Nova Scotia. They had Arguses that were submarine tracking airplane. type of thing. And we, when we were out there back in 73, 4, 5, 6 type of thing, 7, 8, we won the Maritimes, we won the provincials type of thing. And they're having a Sports Hall of Fame ceremony on October 25th, and I'm going up for that one. I'm getting inducted into that one. So, and that's where I started playing goaltender, got those goalie skates and all that fun stuff. And my old manager, Wayne McPherson's there. Donnie Hislop, the fellow that projected that I was going to be the next All-Star goaltender, he's been contacting me, coordinating this. So this is going to be so wonderful. I'm so looking forward to that in the end of this month.
Love
and
it.
to think it all started at a swap meet in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that's right.
That's wild.
Right.
That's
yeah,
wild.
we'll have them too.
It's wild. One of the things too, I always like asking guys is who were in for so long and had such a long, careers. How was it to like transition for life after hockey?
I don't know. I think of this the other day. When I was in Toronto, I lived just on the west side of the west side of the city by Square One type of thing, with Todd Gill. And in the summers, I drive over to Markham, like across the top of the QE or the 401 up to Markham. To the valleys. I used to work out there every morning, and I used to go there first thing in rush hour because I knew one day I'd be working and I'd have to battle stuff like that. Like I kind of knew that I wouldn't be playing hockey the rest of my life, and I was one of those guys that grew up in the area where hockey, in the Western Hockey League, there's a lot of area, and there's a lot of travel 2-week trips. It's not tailored so you get your high school diploma. Although everybody else did and I didn't, I ended up, doing other things. And I promised my mom I'd get that. She passed away. Me and Mark Howe promised her mothers back in Philly. So during COVID, I gathered up I took university courses along the way, and I got enough credits to get my high school diploma. So I finally got that to show my mothers.
Right on.
Yeah, that was cool.
Love it. Brad, I'm cashed out. So whatever you got for him, big dog, fire away.
Yeah. So and then of course, 13 years ago, you opened up 31 Bar and Grill. I can't wait to come down there, Ken. I hear the cheeseburgers are legendary.
I'm gonna drink 55 beers there, Ken.
One last thing that I'll ask you, because a good friend of ours, Bob Murray, he's kind of a hockey historian, and he likes to talk about Windsor natives because we're from Windsor, Essex County, and he wanted me to ask you if you ever run into Rick Kehoe at any alumni events.
Yes, not very often. When we like the for the year Silver Six or something like that, or something, a big thing, they bring all the guys together, and he's always part of it. I think he comes in from Vegas or Phoenix or something like that. But we see him quite often. Yeah, he's a great guy, just like he was when he was coaching back in 92, 3, 4, along there.
Awesome. Well, Ken, we want to thank you very much for your time and sharing, your story, going all the way from a swap meet in Nova Scotia, all the way to the Stanley Cup, and then all the way back around to the Manitoba Moose. It's an incredible career, and we're happy that you were able to share your story on Hat Trick Hockey. Tell us, before we go, a little bit about 31 Bar and Grill, where we can find you and where we can find you on social media.
Yep, 31 Sports Bar and Grill on social media. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. We have some pretty good trending videos right now. We had one on Andre Fleury, so check those out. We have great dinner menu. We have great burgers, salads, wings we're famous for, Reubens, rolls, really good French fries if you're a French fry fan. So, and we have poutine as well. So make sure if you're in the area, stop by. We have bands on the weekend, local bands of all sorts, and we'd love to say hi to you and have you host you here.
Oh man,
yeah, it's only 4.5 hours from.
Yeah,
from
it's not bad at all.
Yeah,
it's not bad at all.
The
food looks incredible.
That's really good. It's good.
I'm
perfect.
down.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Ken.
Yeah,
and, we'll see you next time on Hat Trick Hockey.
All right, thank you guys very much. Enjoyed that.
You're welcome. From all of us here at Hat Trick Hockey, thanks for tuning in. I am Brett Hedges alongside Ken Wregget, 575 games played, and the 92 Stanley Cup champ from Ant as well. We'll see you next time on Hat Trick Hockey. Good night.
I've lost my fight with time. My numbers up and up the line. I gaze at the darkness, so my